Hello, my name is Carrie and I am the Holistic Health Consultant. I have worked in healthcare for almost a decade as a nurse practitioner, and I am a certified personal trainer. I truly believe in whole body, head to toe health, and that is what this is all about. This is the Holistic Health Hot Seat, and I'm so excited that you are here. I truly believe in empowering you with education and resources to make decisions about your health. I'll be interviewing women about their health journeys, health experiences, different healing modalities, and the research that they've done, giving you an idea of what might help you. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Health Hot Seat. My name is Carrie. I'm the Holistic Health Consultant. I'm so excited that you are here. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe so you don't miss out on other amazing interviews. Today, I have Tammy Ward. She is a motivational speaker. She owns her own yoga studio, and she recently just retired from 25 years of policing. And I'm so excited to have you, Tammy. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and just all about you.
That's a big one. So as you mentioned, I retired from policing. So I was with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, our federal force, for 25 years. I retired just February as a sergeant. And I opened my own studio 4 years ago, and a part of my journey was because of the involvement with policing and being involved in an officer shooting. We had 5 officers shot, 3 fatally, and I was involved. And I dealt with that, and then 12 days after the shootings, I lost a personal friend who was also a police officer to suicide that I attended. And then 4 months later, I lost another coworker and friend to suicide. And I took some time off work and just had to, get myself together and focus on myself, my healing, my mental health. And I started to open a studio because I've always taught yoga and fitness for everyone but myself. And I converted my home. I have a walkout basement in my house. I live out in the country. So I converted the basement into a beautiful yoga studio that I felt safe in because I needed a space that I felt good in. And so I opened it up, and it's been 4 years in January, and I just started teaching through word of mouth. And right now, all my classes are full. So during COVID for us, I gave a lot of online classes for free. I was alone at the time, so for my own mental health, it kept me connected to all my students. And also it helped all my students stay connected to the group. And I did it all for free because I was in a position that I could do that. And, I didn't have any rent to pay like a lot of the studios and people had to do to, stay afloat. So I was very grateful and fortunate. So I passed that on. And I had people joining me from all over the world. Actually, I had a lady from Grenada. I want to go visit her. I had a lady from Kentucky, there's 2 ladies in LA, and then all across Canada, I had people that shared my link and people joined in. And I did 1 class during COVID where I asked for a donation, but I had decided on the Monday night that I was going to do it for our local food bank, or soup kitchen actually, because I know that their supplies are running low. So in less than 48 hours, I put it out before I taught. And in that 40 odd hours, I raised $932 for our local soup kitchen. So yeah, that was great. And it was because I had been given yoga. So a lot of my regulars, they sent me $50 donations because they said, well, you've been giving me yoga for 6 weeks for free. So, pay it forward. So then I got to pay it forward to the soup kitchen. So it was like, yeah, it felt really good.
Oh, wow. That's an incredible, all of that is just such an incredible story. So were you doing the yoga studio toward the end of your policing career then, at the same time?
Yes, because at that point I was working more or less a Monday to Friday job, daytimes. So I could teach in the evenings and on weekends. I had a pretty structured schedule, so it allowed me to do that. Whereas before, when I was on patrol or worked different shifts, I would be selective when I could teach, and a lot of time it was more I covered classes for other people because I didn't want to have a full-time commitment to something, because I don't like to commit and then back out or not show.
Yeah. Yeah. And had you found yoga for yourself prior to opening the studio, or like was there something, I mean, your story is incredible and I could see like a million points where you may have stopped and said, okay, now is the time for me to take care of my own well-being and my own mental health. Where was that for you, and was yoga your path for that, or was there something that came before, or?
Oh, wow. So I've always been involved in fitness. From the age of 3 until my 20s, I studied classical dance, and I performed, I taught up until the month before I left for police training. So quite a gear shift there, from going from being a ballerina and a ballerina teacher to going to be a police officer. And so while I was teaching, it was a natural transition to get into teaching fitness and Pilates and yoga. So I've always had that my entire policing career. And then prior to retiring and opening my own studio, I focused mainly on just offering and teaching yoga. I kind of got away from teaching any of the higher impact classes, and I was teaching a lot of flows. But after the shootings and getting myself back together, I focus more on yin and restorative, and I offer a trauma sensitive class for women. And so that's just to create a safe space and a safe community for women to come and do yoga. We don't talk about what brought them to class, because I'm not a therapist, and I don't want anybody to share something that someone else hasn't dealt with yet. And the other thing is, I was afraid also, you don't want people to feel that their trauma or the reason they're here isn't big enough or good enough. I mean, how many people, have been involved in shootings and deaths and suicides, and, and I had people that came from cancer survivors. I had ladies from domestic violence. I had ladies who had been, sexually assaulted, bad marriages, a death of a spouse. So we had a big variety of women, and it was just no judgment. Show up messy. If you're a hot mess and you make it, that's great. Like, there's no, you don't have to look pretty, and you don't have to put on a name brand, yoga outfit. Like, if you got your big baggy sweatpants on, you're cool. Just come on in.
Yeah. And so was it using that yoga modality as a healing modality then? Is it using that yoga to connect the body? And so can you speak on that a little bit more? To preface it, I guess I should have started here. I'm not a huge yoga person. I will do it every once in a while, like when I feel I need it, but it's not like my forte. So I'd love for you to speak on that a little bit more for the people who need to hear it.
Okay, well, a part of me and turning to just doing the quieter practice of yoga with the yin and the restoratives and the trauma sensitive was, following the shootings, I worked way too much. I took over the team that the boys were killed on, and I just went straight out for 4 months and didn't process things. My self-care involved running, because that's how I deal with things. I'd run until I almost throw up, and then I turn around and I run back. And what happened was, during that time frame, I was running every day. I was working out like crazy. But when I get stressed, I'm one of those weird people who forget to eat. So after everything, and the second suicide, when I finally hit a wall and I went and I saw my family doctor, I had lost more than 10% of my body's weight. I was down to 113 pounds. My blood pressure was 74 over 50. So I wasn't allowed to go back to work until I put on weight. My blood pressure went up and I started sleeping again. So that was a big, okay, put the brakes on and just get on my mat. And I stopped hitting the gym. I stopped running, and I walk now. I don't run because, you know, I was asked once by my therapist, like, why are you running? Like, what are you running from? And I sat with that for a long time, and I'm like, yeah, that's how I deal with things. I run, I physically run. So I've stopped that, and I've really focused on the yoga just to turn within and process and try to sort things out so that I'm actually getting better and not just putting band-aids on things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that question that she posed to you is like, what are you using it for? Because I think that running is a clear one. Like that metaphor is very clear. Like, what are you running from? But I feel like women in general, especially when we're in high stress environments or we've experienced some trauma, we will turn to things that are generally healthy, like working out or watching our food, and it ends up becoming morphed into something that's unhealthy because maybe it's the one thing that we can control, or it's the one thing that we can sort of hide behind, right? Like we can hide there and nobody thinks anything of it because you're just running, you're just getting healthy, you're
Oh,
just
she's
going to the
fit.
gym. Right, yeah.
It's
I miss
socially
it.
acceptable. It's not, I'm not going to
Yeah.
bars, I'm not drinking, I'm not, you know, if I put on 100 pounds, people would notice. But if you drop 15 pounds, people are like, oh, you got really skinny. But, you know, like women were like kudos instead of, oh, baby, what's going on? You know?
Yes, absolutely. So I love that story, and I love that perspective because, you know, of course, being a holistic health consultant, that's definitely something I talk about, is not just, okay, it's not just about weight loss or diet, but like, what is your relationship with food, and what is your relationship with your body, and the movement that you're choosing to do, is it honoring yourself? And I think yoga is one of the really wonderful ones that when people say they're doing yoga, it's, in my mind, almost impossible to do yoga and not be honoring yourself, just because of the deep connection that it does create for people. Although I'm sure there's a way that that can get
Well, I
as
find
well.
if some of the fast-paced vinyasa flows and the hot yogas, I find
Sure.
those are, to me, I equate that to running, because when you have to follow somebody else and it's go, 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 you don't have to think. And when you're in a really hot studio, like a Bikram studio or a hot yoga studio, sometimes people are more focused on, I can't breathe, so they're trying to breathe, or I don't want to get sweat in my eye or slide off my mat. So again, there is some avoidance, I think. So I found personally that the yin practice and the restorative practice for me was a lot more grounding and a whole lot harder, because there's nothing harder than sitting still and having to deal with what's going on upstairs and to just breathe into your body, because there's nobody saying, okay, and you're just like, so you
Yeah,
gotta, you know, there's a lot more for myself. I find there's a lot more mind body connection.
yeah, and I think, yeah, that's a really beautiful point. And I think it is finding rhythms like that. Even like you said, like your rhythm used to be go, go, hustle, push through. And I think I've been that way as well previously, and still do it, right? Like we're always a work in progress. But I think it is finding those rhythms and finding the times where we can slow down
Yeah.
and get those practices. So I think that that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting in a really nice sweaty vinyasa class, or, you know, like pushing yourself. But when you're already running on empty and that tank is already overdrawn, I think sometimes we need to sit back and reflect on, okay, what do I really need? Because if you're out there and you're just running and running and running and running, and then I'm going to do yoga and it's going to be a hot flow class, there's no balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I talk a lot about, like stress. And I think sometimes when we use that word, we all sort of equate it to, you know, relational stress and work stress and those things. And we forget that exercise is a physical stressor. And so if we're stressed in our daily lives and then we're adding stress through our exercise, we have to be very careful about that balance as well. And so I think that's a wonderful way to, that you kind of said that, like go, 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 go. Oh, and then I'm also going to do a yoga that's a go, go, go type of yoga. So yeah, that's fantastic. I know when I was kind of looking through some of your things and connecting with you, I saw that you do kind of speak on that idea about being in a male dominated workspace. I would love to kind of hear from you sort of what maybe factors that kind of played in taking care of your mental well-being and sort of your energy, like what kind of things sort of have you had to do or learn about being in that male dominated world as a woman and sort of protecting that femininity?
Well, first off, the hardest part is when you're the only female on a shift. So, like when I started, I worked on a team of 18 and I was the only girl. So, there's that. And I found it difficult sometimes because, the men, they bond, they go fishing, they go hunting, they go drinking, they go whatever. And they're married men, so I don't tag along. I'm a vegetarian, so I definitely don't go hunting and fishing. So that was hard. And then how do you make friends when all you work with is married men or men? And, when you're meeting people, they're either a victim or it's a crappy day for them. And it's like, hey, when you get your crap together, give me a call, we'll do coffee. So I found that very difficult in the beginning of my career was, a lot of people make friends through work. And, for me, I found it kind of isolating. And then when I first started, I had it really good. The men on my team were absolutely wonderful. They treated me with respect and kindness. And because I was the only girl, their wives got together sometimes and did things like went out for supper every once in a blue moon. And I always got an invite from the ladies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was included. Like if the boys were going out after work, once in a while, we're gonna go grab beer and a wings. Well, I'll go have a beer with you. So I still was included, but it's not at the same level. And then I had some changes in my career because we move around, and I worked with some not so nice people, and women were seen as inferior and treated not very well. I wasn't treated very well at all, to say the least. I went through a lot of harassment and actually had to hire a lawyer at one point. And yeah, I went through a lot that way. Things that shouldn't happen at work to anybody, I had to deal with. And so that took a toll. And it also made me pull back into myself even more so, because women are automatically judged as weaker. And I'm not a big woman. I'm 5'3". I weigh 120 odd pounds. So I mean, I'm not seen as like the Amazon woman who, I fit right in with the boys. I'm seen as little. So you have to do more. You have to be twice as smart. You have to, was always how I felt, to be considered even close to equal. And so when things happen, you just pretend you're okay. And I think that's not just females. That is the profession itself. Like, the old expression, like, suck it up, buttercup, or, put your big girl panties on and deal with it. So you don't let emotions show. So I was involved in a lot of things, especially the suicides and the different events, where I pretended nothing bothered me because I didn't want anyone else to see me cry. And I couldn't let anyone see me cry because after the shootings, I was the operational NCO of a watch. So I was their supervisor. And so I can't come back to the office crying because I'm the person that they go to. So I just kept sucking everything in and pretending I'm okay, until I just couldn't pretend anymore. And I think that's what happens in our profession, that people keep so much inside that they're afraid to talk about it because, one, you're judged. I've heard of instances where people have actually asked for help and then people turn around and take away their firearm, and it's embarrassing and it's humiliating. And things get said. It happened to me. Things get said that are very unkind. And then so people don't want to ask for help or talk about it. And then anyone who is married, has a significant other or children, you're not bringing that stuff home. You're not coming home and telling your wife about the traffic collision you attended where a family was killed. Like, you're not bringing, so you keep everything inside until, you either hit a wall or worse. And that's why for me, speaking about mental health and actually getting help and talking about what you see, and not being afraid to say I'm not okay, because right now in Canada and the States, more officers die by suicide than in the line of duty.
As a society, we sort of tell everybody, like, don't be showing your emotions, and nobody wants to see you cry. It makes people uncomfortable if you cry. It makes people uncomfortable if you express your emotion. And so I think from a cultural standpoint, we need to be like, let people feel, all people, just let people feel, and let that be okay, and let us sit in those emotions. And I think it goes back to what you said about yoga, is like, you have to sit with yourself. And we need to allow that space for people to sit with themselves and feel things.
And just let it out, whatever it is, just let it out. So when I teach sometimes, like I'll say to the ladies, like I'm going to be doing a series of, poses and postures that tend to open up the heart space or activate our throat chakra or open up through the hips and the places that we carry our traumas or our emotions are stored. I always say our issues are in our tissues. So when you're stretching them out, sometimes things come up. So I always say, if something comes up, let it come up. You don't have to label it. You don't have to know why it's coming up, and you don't have to suck it up. Like, just let it out. And it can be ugly. I don't care. Like, I buy my tissues at Costco, so, go to it. And, like I had a lady once, she was losing a sister to cancer, and she just had a big aha during class, and she just halfway through started to cry, and she couldn't stop the whole class. And afterwards she came to apologize to me, and I said, oh my gosh, don't apologize. I said, I am honored that you felt safe and that you were allowed yourself to feel, because that is what you needed to do. So don't apologize. And like, to me, I felt like that's a gift that somebody gave to me, that she felt safe enough to do that.
Yes, that's beautiful. And I think that that's something that is said a lot too, is that I'm sorry. Like, you cry and I'm sorry. And breaking that down in whatever way you need to for yourself to say, like, you're not going to apologize for those emotions anymore. It's just a feeling. And that's something, I've had to coach on with my people too, is, people want to say I'm anxious or I'm sad or I'm depressed, and letting them kind of shift that in the tiniest way of just saying, I'm somebody who's experiencing sadness. Because once we say I am sad, like we want to own that, and we want to hold on to it, instead of just saying I'm experiencing this emotion, like for whatever reason, in whatever way, I'm feeling this way. And I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful space that you've created for women that are going through the stuff, which, it sounds like a lot of those women are going through just life. Some of it's life.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's big. I think it's beautiful that your story, you talk a lot about going in, I went inward, but now you've gotten to this place where you're really like pouring it out. Like, let's go, let me show you. And I think that that's a beautiful way to kind of look at your story of like, okay, I had to deal with my own shit, and then that allowed that space for these other women to come to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think now too, with me being retired, I don't have to be as careful. I don't say anything that's not true, and that I don't have documentation to back me up on anything when I talk about the harassment, etc. But when I was still employed, I was a lot more cautious about what I said because of ramifications. But I am no longer employed. I am on a pension, and they can't take that away. So I can stand in my authentic self. I can talk my truth without fear of any backlash.
And that's really powerful. I think it will be really exciting to see all of the amazing things that then you're able to do in that power now.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been like a really amazing chat. Your story is phenomenal. The things that you have gone through, my heart just breaks for you, but I also see this like amazing thing that you're doing, which makes me excited. So it's like this weird space of heartbreak, but ooh, that's so exciting for you. So I would love for you to share where people can find you, whether it's they just want more of your energy, they want to find your yoga so they can kind of deal with some of that trauma, or they just want to hear more about your story. Where can they find you?
Oh, a few places. So on Facebook, I have a page for my yoga. It's TLW Yoga. So those are my initials. And it's the same on Instagram. I made life real easy. It's also my Gmail account. So TLW Yoga, any of the social media or Gmail, you can reach out to me. I also have 2 websites. One is yoga, and it's TLW Yoga, but it's .ca because I'm in Canada. And you can sign up for my newsletter. There's a few free videos in there. And then I have a second site for public speaking. So you can contact me through that. And it's tammywardspeaks.com. And there's a few testimonials and things on that and a little bit more about my story.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. It was fantastic to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.